Good evening, everybody. I lost some audio there for a second, and our little intro cut out quick, so you kind of caught me off guard. But we are here again. My name's Donald Patterson, your host for Fish East Live. So obviously not the best way to kick off the first of this 7-episode series that we're doing in conjunction with the Maritime Boating and Outdoor Digital Marketplace. For those of you who aren't familiar with what that is, our friends over at Master Promotions have had to set aside the New Brunswick Sportsman Show and the fly fishing show, the boat show, everything that we normally have in the spring in Moncton, along with other trade shows across the region. So they combined it all onto a digital platform called the Maritime Boating and Outdoor Digital Marketplace. And we're more than happy to be working with them, being a part of this online trade show. And as part of that, we are producing a 7-episode series, one a week for the duration of the online trade show. So we're here and excited to be here and excited to bring on some very, very special guests. Right off the bat, before we get into any guests, I have to be my co-host, Matt Zio.
Hey, Donnie, how's it going?
Matt, how are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good, other than the little birdie telling me that my audio is rough. So, folks, if you're out there on watching us, I hope we get this straightened out just very quickly. So, Matt, I'm going to kind of let you take the lead from a Nova Scotia perspective. How are things going since your guys' season opened up? Because you guys get a 2-week head start on us.
Yeah, I mean, I myself haven't put too many fish in the boat yet, but I spent a little bit of time trying something new. I was chasing a striped bass in the freshwater lake they winter over in, which is kind of new to me. Saw some fish, found a few, but didn't have a lot of success. So I didn't really target trout like I normally do early on. But from what I've been seeing and hearing on the different social media pages and stuff, people are catching a lot of fish this year, and we've had a nice spring this year. So, so far so good.
Well, so far so good for you. At least you've been out. Today was our opening day here in New Brunswick. Yes, we do have tidal water, but so far I haven't been able to even dig the rods out of the garage and get ready. But from what I'm seeing, like you say, social media, Facebook groups and that sort of thing, it looks like right now the spring is off to a great start. And I just hope that means big things to come this summer.
Yeah, lots of time for you to wet a line, Donnie. Don't worry about it. Things are just starting to get good now.
I'm not worried yet. As we've talked, before, when we did a few episodes before we took our little break leading up to this series, I'd mentioned a couple times that I was fighting a knee injury that kind of kept me sidelined for a little while. And, I'm happy to say, and my physiotherapist is probably happy to hear me say that, it's come a long ways. And I don't think I'm going to, lose my season like I actually was concerned with there for a little while. So, but enough about me and my knee. Yeah, enough about me and my knee. Matt, I can't say how excited I am about the next 7 weeks. Yes. We have, and don't get me wrong, we love talking to Mike Holland. He was with us with our very first episode back however long ago that was. And Mike's always great to hang out and talk, and whether it's online or on the banks of the river or on a boat, he's just a great guy and a great advocate for what we all love here in our province, or here in New Brunswick. I guess that's my province, not yours. But a good advocate for fishing and outdoor activities overall. But aside from that, I'm going to tease everybody a little bit now, and then I'm going to tease you some more later, and then later. We have, without a doubt, the biggest guests we've ever brought on to Fish East Live coming up. And, for those of you who are watching at home right now, next week's guests, I can't even tell you who they are. Because it's one of those things we have to keep under our hats. So make sure you tune in next Thursday night, the 22nd, I believe the date is, at 8 o'clock, and you're going to see something special for Fish East Live.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, definitely. So, I see we have our special guest for tonight joining us. So, without further ado, I can't believe on the opening day of fishing season we got him in the house before the sun went down. But waiting in the wings is New Brunswick Minister of Natural Resources, Mr. Mike Holland.
Hey, everyone.
Good evening, Mike. How are you tonight?
Good. I spent all day wearing a suit, man. I never got nowhere near Riverbank or boat dock or anything. So I just had to wish everybody well from the boardrooms today, and then plan on getting out myself a little bit later on. So
yeah, well, that's one of the hazards when you're the man in charge is somebody's got to keep that ship floating.
Yeah.
So first off, Mike, thank you for joining us. Like I said, it's been a while since we had a chance to sit down and chat. You joined us for our very first episode way back when. And, on the opening day of fishing season, I couldn't think of a more appropriate time to have you on because I know you have put a lot of work into the hunting and fishing file that goes along with your job. And, let's just hit quickly on a couple of the high points. I know the combination license for you was something you've wanted to do right from the start. And that's something that you got done. And we could talk turkeys because I know that's something you're very proud of as well. But at the end of the day, we are a fishing show.
Yeah.
And you're probably almost turkey talked out after the last couple of weeks.
Well, I can kind of bridge it. You see, many people refer to me as a catch and release hunter. So maybe there's a connection there somewhere. So.
Okay, a catch and release hunter, is that a polite way of saying shoot and miss?
Yeah, bang, miss. Yeah. So,
okay.
Everybody needs practice. But no, I mean the fishing and angling component of the job is what we need to celebrate here tonight. Hopefully the steps we're taking makes the outdoors better for everyone. They have a chance to cross over. I'd love to hear stories about hunters who take up angling, anglers who take up hunting. And I guess if we can make the woods and the water better for everyone, and there's more people out enjoying the outdoors, regardless of its hunting, hiking, camping, or angling, and combining the whole crew of them together. Our mandate and our mission is to get more people into the outdoors. And today we launched out April the 15th with the opening day. Last year, we had a couple complications that delayed us for a little bit, but we had our fingers crossed right up until now. And today we were able to get going flawlessly. I think that's due in large part to the anglers of New Brunswick who proved last year that they would be responsible, they would be legal, they would follow the rules, and we never had an issue as it relates to COVID-19 the angling community. So it needs to be pretty proud of the work they did last year to prove that we don't take it for granted being on the water, and when we get there, we're going to be responsible when we do so. So first of all, it's a big hats off to the anglers in New Brunswick because that's the reason why after last year we had a track record and a history that we could stand on and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. So it wasn't even a question this year, and I'm really happy. I've seen a lot of folks. One of the things in my job is I don't get out into the woods or don't get out on the water as much, but people are filling my phone with pictures, and that makes me as proud as anything else to see that New Brunswick Strong hit the water, and there's some beautiful fish out there. I saw everything from stripers to salmon today, and it gives you an itch. Can't wait to get out.
Oh, definitely. And I was going to mention there's Dale Taylor saying stripers are hitting hard in Miramichi, and I'm hoping to get up there fairly soon. But you must be in a whole lot better spirits than what you were at this time last year, because let's face it, this time last year you were in the middle of pardon my language, but you were in the middle of a shitstorm.
Yep, uncharted territory for sure, and we didn't know what we were going to face. I mean, we've got spring seasons for hunting that are starting as well with bear, and now this year turkey. But angling is, of course, the focus for most people in the spring. And to hear that we were delaying was very much a concern. Of course, we're concerned with the safety of New Brunswickers, but delaying such an opportunity for folks to get out and enjoy wide open spaces. I mean, really, we talk about putting ourselves at distance with each other, and there's no better way to do that than a riverbank. And COVID has had such a devastating effect, not on necessarily our health, but our mental health. You know, it's affected us from the neck up as much as it has the neck down. And so this year it was very important to make sure that we could get out and stretch our legs and get out on the river and do what we love, because that has a healing effect that, you know, you can't find in any pharmacy. And it was important for us to be able to get out and do that. So we were standing behind getting out on time. Very, very, very much so. And like I said, the angling community stepped up last year. And once again, we give that reminder that, you know, when you're heading out, even though we are in yellow zones for the most of the province, with the exception of the Edmonton region, you know, be cautious. I have the same advice this year. Avoid the unnecessary stops. You know, gas up, get your sandwich, get your beverages. If you can combine all that with as few stops as possible, make your sandwiches at home, whatever the case may be. Make sure to wear your mask when you can't social distance, and continue to show that we are ambassadors for not only fishing but for responsible behavior. And you know what? The government as a whole doesn't look twice now when I say that we're ready and we're going to step into it in the right way. So. Yeah, I'm happy. The only thing is I got to get out there myself.
Definitely. I know last year, early season, when we were allowed to stay, once the season opened, you know, we spent I had a couple opportunities to get on the riverbank. One day we got skunked, I will admit. I'm not proudly admitting.
We got one that day. When
did we?
That day on the boat?
No. The day down here just below my house, the first day when we went out going for trout.
Oh yeah. I see. I blocked those from my memory.
Yeah, I remember too many of them. But you know, the next day we got out, you know, going out back from the house for the shed. We had a little more success that day. So
you know what? Yeah. Getting out that day with you guys, and I've shad fished before, but more with good luck than good management. But going out with guys that knew where to target them, knew how to have the right tackle. Having that light stuff, that was a great day. Like, I'll remember that fishing trip for a long time. That was awesome.
Yeah, well, we got a good friend by the name of Scott Blair to thank for some heads up on location for that one. He pointed us in the right direction, because as much as I'm ashamed to say, it was 5 minutes from my house, and that was my first time there too. So, but
we'll go back again.
Oh, without a doubt. They run there every year, and we will be back. So I've seen some comments popping up on the screen. And folks, whether it's a comment, if you've got a question for myself, Matt, or obviously Mike, throw it up on the screen. We'll get to as many as we can. But, you know, Mike Rouse floated the boat for the first time tonight. You know, Gerald Foster saying, thanks, Mike. Angling equals sanity for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Ross Warren, thanks, Mike, and everyone in this video for the info. Also to Mike for getting the season open today. You know, at the end of the day, and I mean, we couldn't have asked for a nicer day to open the season too. Yeah. I mean, for mid-April, an absolutely beautiful day. And like I said, I mean, I do get a little jealous, even though, you know, Matt's sitting down there in Nova Scotia with a 2-week head start on us. He's already been out pickerel and stripers, and you know,
he got one trout this year.
One trout so far.
Two trout.
But,
two trout so far.
You know, as much as I'm jealous of his head start, Mike, there's a couple things that we can do here in New Brunswick that he can't do down there. Muskie.
Yeah.
You know, so just sturgeon.
I'm wearing my muskie shirt tonight.
Nice. So, Mike, why don't we talk a little bit about, I guess, the diversity of the New Brunswick fishery? I mean, for so many years, and this is what Fish East is about. Fish East is about multi-species angling. We want people, we don't care what your preference is. We want to recognize that there's benefits, whether it be for the person, the communities, the province as a whole, for all of these different elements that our province offers. And we're not just salmon, we're not just trout, we're not just bass. We want people experiencing all of this. And, you know, you've really taken that message to the government that there's so much more here to offer, or not that there's so much more, that the province literally has that much to offer.
Yeah, excuse me. Well, I mean, one of the things that that a lot of people that live in New Brunswick and have spent their entire life here aren't aware of is the diversity of the fishing opportunities that we have here in New Brunswick. We've got world-class muskie fishing, world-famous salmon fishing, and everything in between. Like this winter, I went out to French Lake, drilled a hole in the ice, and sat there and was wondering, what am I going to get next? Is it going to be a yellow perch? There are white perch that go through there. I picked up a catfish, and then wham, the big pickerel hit. And so in one spot, sitting over a couple of holes in the ice, you pull out 5 or 6 different species, right?
Yep.
And then you add to that during the open water season, you can travel within a couple hours and hit 10 or 15 different species. The St. John River system is alive. I'm amazed at the vegetation in that water system. One of the things that we're going to see roll out over the next year is the work we're doing to expand and develop the conservation land mass in the province of New Brunswick. Now, a lot of that is going to be dedicated towards, preserving old growth forest or deer wintering yards, different habitat for wildlife. But there's a significant effort and focus in a lot of nominated areas that we're going to be expanding on river health, riparian habitat, areas where we can protect cold water, and we're going to see the results of that in years to come. To put it in perspective, by the end of this year, we're going to have an additional 19 Fundy National Park size blocks of natural area preserved and protected. It's historic. And so now what we're doing is we're taking that jigsaw puzzle and finding out how it best benefits, all the creatures that call the woods and the water home. And people think about preserving landmass as for 4-legged critters or wings or birds, but we can target. I'm really excited about some of the stuff in the river systems of Miramichi, some of the St. John River Valley river systems that we're going to look at putting some protections in place for. And the health of the river system, as that conservation area is entrenched around those locations. The fishing Deacon, when he's taking his kids out, man, like, this is the stuff we're doing now. We're investing in that conservation work to see that already phenomenal fishery has a chance to get entrenched and grow, so that generations that aren't even born yet are watching this. And it took on a real special importance for me, because I grew up in the Miramichi region, and of course had a fly rod in my hand from a very young age. Knew what it was like to put a worm on a hook, even younger than that. And trout and salmon were the targeted species. I didn't catch a diverse amount of fish until I started traveling around this province, and I just had a grandson born 5 months ago, and I'm already anticipating the opportunity I'm going to have to take my grandson out onto the banks of the rivers and lakes throughout New Brunswick, and give him an opportunity to fish things that I never even dreamed of when I was his age. So future's bright. The future's bright.
The future is very bright, and I think that's something that we all, as New Brunswickers, New Brunswick anglers, should be proud of. And anyone who I don't want to paint anyone in a bad light, but we all know that there are people who look down their noses from one type of fish to another. But at the end of the day, we all share the same passion, whether it's in New Brunswick or in Nova Scotia. We all share the same passion. It's getting that rod bent, getting that line loaded up.
You know what? You just made something. If you give me just a second, I'd like to expand on it. One of the things that at every whether it's a hunting group or whether it's a fishing group or whether it's an outdoor adventure group, I talk about consistency and collaboration a lot, because there are folks that are both in governments or in the general public that would love to do things to stop us. There are groups that are opposed to fishing, that are opposed to hunting, and there's nothing they like to see anymore than anglers and hunters that are fighting with each other. So I continually, tonight is a fishing program. So I'm going to ask all of us to link up in unity versus division, and, learn something from the bait fisherman as a fly fisherman, learn something about lake fishing if you're a river fisherman. Reach out to people who do explore and enjoy angling in a different way than you, and try to learn something and try to expand your own base of experience rather than take a critical approach. Because I'll tell you this right now, and I've seen it firsthand, that when the anglers and the hunters unite in a province, and we are not at odds with each other, governments listen. Because in New Brunswick, when you look at the combination of the angling and the hunting licenses sold, that's over 110,000 New Brunswickers, citizens. Add that to the family members that sit around the table with them and have supper every night, and you're talking hundreds of thousands of New Brunswickers that have a vested interest in enjoying the outdoors and expanding the outdoors and building upon that. And I live in a world of politicians, and you know what? We listen to large blocks of people who are united and moving in the same direction. So the more we can link up and celebrate what unites us versus divides us, the stronger and the louder our voices. So I just wanted to add to that. You said that, and I'm like, yep, that you could not have said anything that makes my job easier than all of us being on the same page, even when we're on different pages.
Well, and that's just it. You can have a different branch of the tree, but we're all the same tree.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. I think that's a great message because I see that a lot here in Nova Scotia too. There is a lot of division, but at the end of the day, everyone pays for the same license. Everyone's got the right to fish the way they want, and I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it as long as you're following the rules. And I think there is a lot that fly fishermen can learn from spin guys can learn from fly guys, and it goes back and forth. So I think that's a great message. 100% on board with that message.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll admit I learned a lot. Last year when we were traveling around the Maritimes and doing our adventures filming, it really opened my eyes because there was types of fishing and species and that I had never even thought about. And then all of a sudden we're out there targeting it, and it was pretty cool and definitely an education. And, Matt's a real good fly fishing teacher. He just had a real bad student, but I'm not giving up. So, but Matt, I want to ask you a question. No. Hey, like I said, everyone tells me I didn't put a hook in the back of my ear, so I did well. So
that's a successful day when you're first learning to fly fish.
Yeah,
you didn't hook yourself. That's a win, buddy. That's a win.
If you didn't put a fly in the back of Matt's ear.
Yes.
No, he wasn't dumb enough to stand that close. So, Matt, I want to ask you a question, though, and I'm going to kind of segue into a question for Mike that I see one of our viewers has posted. In Nova Scotia, when the season opens, does it open in stages? Is there some areas that open first and other areas that don't? Is there steps to it, or once it opens, it's open across the province?
No, there's certain areas that don't open right away. For example, there's a couple, mostly the salmon rivers. They open a little bit later. Some are May 15th. There's 2 rivers I like to fish down in Cape Breton that open May 15th. There's a few rivers up on the mainland that opened April 15th. So it's staggered. Normally those spots are rivers, and they're trying to protect the salmon leaving the river because we don't have a spring salmon season here like they do in New Brunswick. So you're not allowed to legally target salmon. So they kind of give them some time to get out. And, there's different opinions on whether they should have one or not, or whether the river should be open later instead of April. April 15th, there's still salmon in the river. So there's a lot of debate, but it's not the same across the province. And then, we have certain areas where the bag limits are different. Some of these rivers, you're only allowed 3 fish and 1 can't be over a certain size. So there's a lot of regulations. You got to go through the book with a fine-tooth comb. And if you're going to be fishing in an unfamiliar area, you should probably know where you're fishing and what the regulations are. So, yeah, it's not April 1st across the board. No.
Okay. Now, Mike, I know you've seen this question before, but like I said, we have viewers asking questions. I'm going to try and get to as many of them as possible. Edward Langell says that So the season cannot he addresses you directly. Mike says that we can't open the fishing season across the province on the same date because of spawning times of certain species. If we all pay the same for a license, why shouldn't it open the same date for everyone?
All right. Tell you what, I'm going to answer that as directly as I possibly can. Angling in New Brunswick or Nova Scotia or wherever the case may be, there's very, very few jurisdictions where one size fits all. It's not unique to New Brunswick. And the truth of the matter is, our ability to fish is less about my right to fish or a license that I buy, and it's all about the protection of the resource. So if I can't open a spot because that's a particular time when there's a species that's spawning in that area, then I'm sorry that you don't get a chance to fish in there for 2 weeks earlier than you want to. I believe very strongly that first and foremost, the resource is the reason why we have the ability to fish in the first place. So therefore, the protection of that resource must be first and foremost in our minds. Now, I'm not going to start selling fishing licenses with prorated deductions for 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. But those rules are there less about the convenience of the angler and more about the protection of the resource. And if I have to default towards the convenience of an angler or the protection of the resource, well, I think you can guess which one I'm going to land on each and every time. It's always going to be to protect the resource.
Yep. And that's kind of the long and the short of it. And I mean, the way I look at it, there are times where the season opens and the fishing close to my house may not be good. And it's not that the season's not open for me. My license is valid the same as anybody else's. It just means I have to travel. So the season is open. I'm just looking at it that there's certain bodies of water that maybe they're open, but they're just not fit to fish yet because the water's too high. It's still too cold. So I'm going to jump in my car and I'm going for a drive and I'm going to find a body of water that is open or more suited to fishing right at that time of year. So. But no, Mike, I couldn't agree with you more. The protection of the resource comes before, anybody's convenience, because at the end of the day, without the resource, we don't have any of this.
No, we don't. I mean, and we've got a rich resource here now. And historically, we've fallen down the job with conservation efforts in years gone by. And what we're doing now isn't perfect. But we're trying to move the needle in the direction towards a value of conservation. We're trying to take our Department of Tourism and make them realize that tourism is not just a flip-flops and a day at the beach. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about the value of what we have as a resource and how we can actually economically generate significant revenue from that. But at the end of the day, if the resource fails us, then we're all sitting looking at empty ponds, and I don't want that at the end of the day.
No, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if it's a spawn season or it's a situation where these fish are congregating and the water's still cold and they're not moved off of their wintering holes yet, and they'd be like incredibly easy targets. People could go in and just clean them out. Whatever the motivation is, because every scenario, every body of water can be a little bit different. At the end of the day, it's protecting the resource. What the motivation behind, whether it's a spawn or something else, that really doesn't matter.
And let's look at it from the perspective of everything being relative and jurisdictional scans, because we know that there are certain areas where New Brunswick is open well in advance of some areas in Ontario or other Western provinces. I mean, we are not going to find one location where on April 1st, she's wide open, all set, all go everywhere, because we are managing for diverse water systems. And I think to expect that the one size fits all is a bit unrealistic. So.
No, I know I see it all the time on fishing groups, and Matt, I'm sure you do too, in different groups you're in, like in Ontario, their zones are.
No.
If people think our regulations can get a little confusing sometimes, take a look at the Ontario zone map, and there's some zones, and I'll use bass fishing because that's kind of my background. Excuse me. There are some zones in northern Ontario you can literally fish bass 365 days a year. But then there's other zones in southern Ontario that you can't, and some of the zones, they just launched a catch and release season this year, but you're not allowed to even take a still picture of the fish. It's not just catch it, take your picture, put it back. It's catch it, unhook it still in the water if possible, and let it go. It's if people think our regs are confusing, they really need to take a look at other provinces because it can get far, far worse.
Yeah.
So, Mike, I guess I was going to talk to you a little bit more, and I mean, I'm sure Matt's kind of curious because I know we got a couple fish up here in New Brunswick that are on his bucket list, and you mentioned tourism, and I know you've been working with tourism. Okay, Matt, from your perspective, actually no, Mike, how are you going to sell Matt, a Nova Scotia angler, on coming here?
Well, I think it sells itself. I mean, when you look at somebody that wants to come in to where I suppose you've probably fished all over Nova Scotia, do you, Matt? But where's home base for you?
I grew up in Cape Breton, but right now I'm on the mainland, so I'm just about 25 minutes outside of Halifax.
Okay. Well, I fish the Wallace River. I fish the Waz River. I fish River John. Yep. Some great fish in there, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. And I tell you what, though, when I come up here into this area, and I'll put you on the St. John River, and we'll start at one end, and I'll say, what is the list of fish you would like to catch? And, we talk to somebody like Donnie that knows the water, or some of the other folks that are well adept at that. And we could probably make bets about how far we'll have to take you down that river before you've been able to check those off your list. The prolific nature of such a diverse amount of species of fish is amazing. The other thing is, I mean, if you got some young anglers that you want to get into the sport, I mean, I can sit and cast a rod all day long and never catch anything and go back up the next day and do the same thing. But when you're bringing young fishermen and fisherwomen or girls and boys into the sport, fishing's fun when you're catching fish.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's take them out somewhere where I can put you over a pile of yellow perch so that you'll not have a fingerprint left by the time you're done taking the hook out. We've got such an ample resource: sunfish, white perch, yellow perch, all kinds of things where you can take young anglers out there, and they'll put the rod down and say, Dad, I'm done. I don't want to catch any more fish, right? And that's a memory that they're going to take with them the rest of their life. And then when they're done and they need to sit down and have a little juice box, if you're up in the Miramichi region, the Restigouche region, the Nipisiguit region, we can walk you up to your waist in water where you can have some of the most amazing bright salmon fishing in the world, right? And let's take the Restigouche River. You go up to the top end of that, work your way up, and then you could float your way down on a canoe or a float tube tour. Miramichi River as well. Like, we kind of went from the top of it to the bottom of it and circled the whole entire province with a whole question of, what do you want to do now? Well, we're going to be able to accommodate it. And you're going to find along the way the most accommodating group of fellow anglers that are going to be able to help you, even give you some secret spots that get you pretty close to where you're going to have that fun. So you want to take out the kids, you want to target species that you've never fished before. I'm going after sturgeon this year because I've never boated a sturgeon. I'm going to get that great big 40+ inch muskie this year. That's on my list. And I've been fishing in New Brunswick for 45 years and I still got things on my list. So if that doesn't sell it all unto its own, I don't know what will.
Well, you sold me. I was just ready to text the wife. We're moving to New Brunswick. Pack up. We're going. Yeah. But I mean, I know I've heard the species that are in St. John River. As a matter of fact, before I got kind of involved with Fish East and met Donnie, I didn't realize the different types of fish up there. I mean, I knew you guys had smallmouth. I knew that there were stripers. I knew there was trout and salmon, obviously. And I did hear about lake trout. I've heard about Long Lake Adventures a few years back, but I had no idea about muskie. Yeah. I had no idea there was sturgeon. I had no idea there was burbot. So just for anyone who it might be watching who is not familiar with St. John River, give us a list. What's in there, top to bottom? What would be on my list? Like what should be on my list in there?
Well, I'll miss.
What are all the species?
I mean, white perch, yellow perch, burbot, catfish or bullheads, You've got, well, you will find trout, you will find salmon in different areas, fewer and far between. The muskies, the chain pickerel, the smallmouth bass,
largemouth,
sunfish,
largemouth,
yeah. You know, what else we got there, Donnie? I went through.
I mean, the list could go on. I mean, I guess it really depends.
Because if you go tidal, you guys got some tidal species too, don't you?
Well, I mean, you've got two
tidal,
species of sturgeon.
When you get into the tidal, you can go out there and have a blast all day fishing mackerel. You know, you can get into smelt,
hake,
burbot. I think we mentioned that.
burbot.
Like we did something last year where we said, if you buy your fishing license here in New Brunswick, we're actually following. I got this idea from Nova Scotia. My amazing partner Allison lives in the North Wallace area, and so I fish up all in through there. That's how I fish those rivers I was talking about. And I go down there and buy my non-resident fishing license, and I got my ice fishing license with it. And I always thought that was a great idea. So last year in New Brunswick, if you buy your resident fishing license or non-resident, you get the ice fishing license with it.
So you guys had it separate. It was always separate?
Had it separate. Yeah, we had it separate. So you had to buy both. And actually, I was paying a little bit more for my resident New Brunswick fishing license and ice fishing license than I would be buying my non-resident fishing license, which gave me ice fishing in Nova Scotia. So I said, that has to change. And this year we had an amazing uptake on new ice fishers, people getting out, ice fishing tournaments. People were buying their license, and then they didn't have to go back out and buy another one. All they had to do was hit the hard water. And so you get tired of, kayaking, bass boating, doing whatever to get your open water fish. Well, then you just grab a drill and you can do the same thing all over again on hard water. So
just get your exercise a different way.
And I didn't even mention the fact that we have a series of lakes. Last year, we opened up 77 new lakes for ice fishing in New Brunswick, which was a massive introduction of new areas. And what made that possible was when I came here 3 years ago, we had been building a pot of money for stocking, but we weren't stocking. So we immediately started that again. So we've got a stocking program that's going there now. So we've got a great put and take fishery of both triploid trout and landlocked salmon. So, we've got
you guys stock landlocks. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So we really tried to kick it in gear and say, if I walked up and down the aisles of a fishing tackle store, I want to make sure that we've got the fish in the water that they'll have the tackle for. So you can't go through a fishing store now and not find much that you couldn't use in some way, shape, or form on the water here in New Brunswick. Always could be better, but I like where we're going.
I'll give a big hats off to our local entrepreneurs, our local tackle shops. They are a vital part of our fishing community, and they are doing a phenomenal job in being responsive, to their local community in particular. They focus on whether you're dealing with, Minnow Tackle Shop in Fredericton. You got Mark and the boys at Dorian's in St. John. You've got Big Rigs up in Miramichi, and a number of others that I'm sure I'm not familiar with in each community. But they definitely have adapted to the demands and the increase in anglers. To me, it's an increase. I know, Matt, you had mentioned in a previous episode that Nova Scotia saw an increase last year in license sales. Mike, do you have numbers? Because in 2020 with COVID, it sure seemed like there was a lot more people on the water.
Oh, the numbers, I don't have the exact numbers, but I think the percentage was over 20% increase in anglers on the water.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if that was people who bought the license exclusively for hard water or for open water and the combo. I don't know what, but yeah, license sales were up. Good.
So, what you guys have been in office, what, roughly a year since the last? I've lost track.
think it's
2020
been-
was a blur.
No, I think it's been about 45, 46 years there now that I've been
No, no,
here. At least it feels that way.
no. In office, since the last election.
That's how it feels
Oh,
like I've been
okay.
here for about 70, 60 years.
So-
No, we were elected in 2018, fall of 2018. So coming on the third year.
Okay, I was thinking since the last election because we just had a provincial election during COVID.
That's
didn't
what
we?
I mean. It's a blur. When was that? The fall of last year.
Yeah,
September.
2020 is just a blur. But anyways, so in the duration that let's just say, and I mean, I think you're doing a phenomenal job as our Minister of Natural Resources, and I hope you get a chance to continue because I think you're doing some great things. But let's just say that this is going to be it. That when this term is up, you're done. What do you want to be your legacy? What do you want to see accomplished between now and the end of the next your term?
That I kind of talked a little bit about it earlier. Some kid that's not even born yet is going to be able to grab a fishing rod and head down to a riverbank. Some kid that isn't even born yet is going to be able to head into the turkey woods in New Brunswick. You know, some person that wants to enjoy the natural landscape of the province is going to see just a color palette when the leaves go into fall colors. The province of New Brunswick was built on a hunting heritage and an outdoor lifestyle, and anglers and outdoors enthusiasts. And I believe that we got urbanized for quite a while. I believe that we lost track of what it takes to chart a course to ensure that that's sustainable. And I hope that the period of time that I have in this job, and I'm not naive, the door is going to hit me on the rear end someday, and there's going to be another person in there behind me. And I hope that they will take the work that we've started, because I ain't going to finish it. And I'm not going to be able to say we're completed and we've done everything we need to do. And that legacy continues. I've already written the letter, and it's in the top drawer of my desk. I've written the letter to the next Minister of Natural Resources, whoever that is. And I wrote that within the first month of becoming the Minister of Natural Resources. And that letter basically says that good work was started here. It's important that you continue. And in that letter, I also wrote that I don't care if you're a liberal, a conservative, or a communist. It doesn't matter to me. If you continue this good work, I will stand and support you no matter what. And New Brunswick will be behind you. And we're talking about legacy stuff here. And it always comes back to me, to the outdoors men and women who aren't even born yet, having an opportunity to enjoy the resource. That's the legacy that we want to leave.
Well, and I think that's a pretty good legacy to strive for. And, you know, I think with the changes you're making, I see a question asked here. And I think I've got to bounce back to it real quick because we had mentioned stocking.
Yep.
What species do we stock in the province? And I'm sure the list is long. I don't know if you want to try and go into where, but roughly, you know, a rough idea.
I try to avoid a whole lot of. Well, actually, we do post a list of the lakes that we stock into, but primarily you're looking at landlocked salmon, and you're looking at triploid trout. Triploid being those that can't breed, right? Which makes for a perfect put and take fishery. One of the other things that we've done is we've taken the trout and we've ensured that the stocking is exclusively at the 70-gram level and above. So we do have a lot of areas where that trout that gets stocked is going to share that water with other species. So we want to make sure that the ones we stock are at a point where, I mean, 70 grams is fish. You're going to look at they're like 12-inch fish, right? They're pretty close to it. So these are fish that are going to have a good head start and not wind up going from a bucket to a belly of another fish once we dump them into the particular lake that we're stocking. You know, we got hatcheries that do grow a variety of other species, but we were going from a hard zero to back now to getting very active with the stocking. So, you know, we've got some good businesses here in the province that are very prideful in the work they do with the quality of the stock they provide. So as we go forward, when there's opportunities, the people like that, I'm really proud of our New Brunswick um, sources for stock and the opportunity that we have. I have full confidence that we won't have to go outside these folks to be able to fill it.
That's good. No, I know the stocking program was definitely a bone of contention among anglers. They always, we pay as part of our license, we pay these fees, and so it's definitely nice to see the stocking program up and running again.
And I want to tell folks too, one of the good news pieces is that I was one of those anglers before ever being elected that was ticked off at the fact that I felt like my conservation fee was going down the drain every time I bought a license. But when I got here, although the stocking wasn't going very well, that money had all been preserved and pooled. So as outdoors people, I want to let you know that conservation fee that we pay on our licenses, through even when we weren't doing things very well with it, it's always preserved. That money does not go into general government revenue. It is earmarked for and will go to nothing else other than conservation efforts, maybe wildlife trust fund projects, stocking fees, whatever the case may be. But you can have comfort and confidence in knowing that when you buy your hunting license or you buy your fishing license, that revenue is going, the conservation fees are going to conservation. My job is to make sure we get the best bang for the buck and that we embark on conservation efforts that are going to have a lasting impact.
Definitely. I know when we were exploring, I got a cat running through the background here like a lunatic. So if you hear any noise, that's either the cat or someone in the house chasing it. So I apologize for that. When we were exploring Nova Scotia last year, I noticed that they have an issue that we have the same here. And I'm just wondering if the provincial government has been looking at access to some of our bodies of water.
Yeah.
Whether it be roads or ramps or something to get more bodies of water accessible to the public.
Well, with activating a section of government, i.e. the angling section, natural resources, and including tourism in that, to wake them up to realize that we have a tremendous opportunity here, that's good. I'm very excited about that. But there are growing pains that come with that. We opened up a variety of different lakes for ice fishing. Well, some of them have access issues as well. We're not sitting in a position, we're not exclusive. Any government would tell you that we're not sitting on big bags of cash right now to embark upon a variety of different projects. And as we emerge from COVID, it's most likely going to be even worse for the foreseeable future. So we're going to have to get creative, and we're going to have to work closely with municipalities in some cases for boat slips. We're going to have to work with landowners in other places for easements. The whole idea is that we want to make sure that no lake or river system is held hostage and anglers don't have the chance to participate and enjoy it. So that's going to take some work, and I'm not saying that as we head out, we might get wind of a tremendous fishing spot, but somebody says, "No way, you're not going over my property." There's going to be challenges, and I ask that when we identify those, and I think Donald, you'll agree that I'm pretty accessible on a direct basis. So people need to get in touch with me with those, because I've got a team of people that I forward that to, and I say, "Go to work on this." And the department now has a pretty good understanding that when I bring that to them, I'm looking for them to find a solution for it. So work with us. When you find that stuff, let us know. I am going to open and expand opportunities, and I haven't thought about something over here. So be patient with me and be patient with us, but make us aware of it, and we'll do our level best to find solutions for it.
Yeah, and that's, as voters and as the angling public, that's really all we can ask. There's no perfect solution to these things. It's a question of talking to and working with, whether it be you or other levels of government.
There's some Facebook groups that expect absolute perfection at every turn and accept nothing less. So I'm glad to always be talking with you, Donald. I know you have a high level of grace and forgiveness. So.
Well, if the world was perfect, then I would have already won the lottery, and I wouldn't have been working today. I would have been out on a boat somewhere.
There you go.
So, and Matt would have been probably swearing at me because he would have still been at work in Nova Scotia. So when we started our travels last summer, traveling around New Brunswick originally, and then when the bubble opened up, we did venture out into Nova Scotia. We were dealing, with you and the tourism department both, and really talking with the staycation message. Now, with the current situation, is that the same direction we're going this year? Is that kind of the angle we're looking at? Is staycation is probably going to be our summer?
I'll tell you what, COVID was devastating in many areas, but it also woke us up to so many opportunities we have in our backyard as well. And I think you'll see that the staycation promotions are probably here to stay, because we did see good results with that. Tourism overall was down significantly last year. There's no arguing that. But we brought in some incentives for people to travel within the boundaries of New Brunswick. We offered some travel rebates, and people took us up on it. And I can't tell you the amount of times I heard somebody say, "I had no idea that fill in the blank was here in the province, and now we're going back." And so I think that COVID created the requirement for us to need to look inward. But I think that we're also going to be quite happy with what we saw, and we're going to continue to participate in it. And I know that particularly when we deal with an Atlantic bubble that's open, as an outdoors person, I certainly miss my friends and my turkey hunting in Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont and Ontario. I really do. I miss a variety of things out there that I've participated in the past. But I'll tell you what. If you told me that all I could do was experience the outdoors within the confines of the 4 Atlantic provinces, I think I'd be able to make do. Right?
I can't speak for Matt on that, but
COVID's taught us. I mean, I've hunted in Newfoundland. I've fished in Nova Scotia. I've fished in Prince Edward Island. I've hunted waterfowl in Prince Edward Island and gone from stem to stern here in New Brunswick. And at the end of the day, I could head abroad to work on fishing barracuda or a variety of different species that, we can't get here. But as it relates to hunting, my freezer would be no less full. And my adrenaline would be no less charged up with the opportunities we have in Atlantic Canada. So I have become a strong proponent of backyard adventures, and I think we've got lots of them. In fact, somebody told me last year, they say, "Well, I've never gone down south. I've never gone anywhere. When I'm done experiencing everything that the Maritimes has to offer, then I'll go somewhere else." He said, "But I think I'll get buried long before that." So I thought, yeah, that's a pretty neat perspective to take on it. We can have a lot of fun right here in our backyard.
Yeah, well, I've traveled through my other career through 45 different states and 9 out of 10 provinces, and what we have here on the East Coast. And I'm going to combine it all. I'm not just gonna say New Brunswick, because I love the entire East Coast region. We have something special down here, and we need to remember to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Matt, we were talking Atlantic bubble, and we're talking the entire East Coast. If this bubble gets open, which we're all got our fingers crossed that things don't go sideways. Okay, sorry. When this bubble gets open, you're coming to New Brunswick this year?
No, that's the plan. Yeah, I plan on it. It seems like every time things are looking good, they kind of shut things down again. But definitely, and I think I think what Mike said is true. I mean, I think you could. There's so much experience just in the Atlantic provinces. I myself have never fished. I went to the Miramichi when I was in grade 5 with my father. We hired a guide and did some fly fishing on Miramichi. Didn't catch anything, but that's besides the point. But that was the only time I fished in a province. So I've never fished in Newfoundland. I've never fished in PEI, and that one time in New Brunswick. So I'm dying to get out of the province and try some fishing. I used to do a lot of fishing in Ontario. My family would go all the time. Every summer. But yeah, I didn't realize until recently all the opportunities we had here. So New Brunswick is next up. As soon as I can get there, that's where I'm going. And I'll have my list ready for Mike, and he's going to take me from top to bottom, and we're going to check it all off.
Let's do it. That'll be a blast.
Okay. I think I want to be on the boat because I'm going to call our buddy Paul down in St. John, and I'm going to put the Perriers down through Reversing Falls. If you really want to start at the bottom, at the mouth of the St. John River, I want to see the two of you on a boat going through Reversing Falls.
In kayaks, Matt.
In kayaks.
I'm going to be on a boat watching you. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we'll step it up. We'll do it on paddle boards. We'll do it on paddle boards. How's that?
Yeah.
Step it up. Let's make things interesting.
I bought last year. I went out kayak fishing for the first time.
Yep.
And it was Darren Moore, and he took me out, and an incredible teacher, good friend, and I have what can only be described as an incredibly high center of gravity. So when I get on a kayak, she's an iffy world for me, and it takes me a while to get used to it. And I've had a couple of experiences where I almost met Jesus on a kayak. So I was very reticent to get out on a kayak and go. And I spent the day with Darren one day, and fell in love with it, right? And so I picked up a sit-on kayak, and I can't wait to get that out this year. I was very fortunate to get a good deal on it, and I've added some accessories to it, and I'm really looking forward to putting a lot of water underneath the keel of that thing this winter.
Is that a pedal or a paddle?
It's a paddle. I mean, I'm not at that level. I figure I'm going to need to evolve into it. But the pedal ones, they're pretty cool. But yeah, in this job, wearing the suit all the time and eating at drive-throughs, I could use a little paddle every now and then just to make sure I can stay in shape. So
yeah, well, I can't speak for anyone other in the group other than myself, but I experienced kayak fishing for the first time last year as well up in Bathurst with Matthew Roy and the guys from Bass Attack, and that was a great time. And yeah, my shoulders were a little bit tired at the end of the day, and for a change, it wasn't from the casting.
Yeah, no, so that's what I say. Do something different. Everybody needs to try something. If you're a dyed-in-the-wool fly fisherman and that's all you've done your whole life, try to figure out how to cast a bait caster. Make that a goal that you're going to do over the course of this summer.
If someone's a diehard fly fisherman, I don't think jumping from the fly rod straight to the bait caster is the way to get them to like, lure fishing. I think we better move them to a spinning rod first because, we want them to come back for more. We want them to have.
It's the same concept, line shoot straight, right? Only a little different weight hitting the water when they coil up. That's why I'm scared about taking my grandson out, because I'm sure he's going to learn a lot more about different colorful language than he will about different baits to use when we get teaching him how to use that stuff.
That probably will happen. So,
but yeah, get out and diversify what it is that you do, because like I said, I spent the first 2/3 of my life as a fisherman with a fly rod or a spinning rod. Pretty simple, and not a diverse amount of tackle on the spinning rod either. And I had a blast my whole life. I loved every bit of it. Nothing beats you hook a 6-inch trout on a 3-weight rod and you feel like you got a shark on the other end of the line. It's awesome. You can have a great time. But after I turned 40, I started diversifying what it was I did with fishing, and tried to experiment and play around and mess around and spend a lot more money and do all that stuff. And then I realized that, you know what, in the last 10 years, I did more fishing than I did in probably the previous 30, because you get excited about it. And then there's always something new you can do. If you're limited to one particular pursuit in angling, well, then you're going to get to do that X amount of times a year. But if you can go down to your fishing room and it's like a golf club bag, you can choose what you want for what different types of fish you want to target. You're never going to have, this is probably at the expense of many people's relationships that I'm giving this advice, but every weekend you could go down and find another thing to go and try and have fun with. So,
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that if nothing else with this Fish East adventure, since we started down this road, it's taught me. Matt, how many species did you catch last year, roughly?
I didn't catch anything new. I'm going to say about 10, maybe 10 different species of fish.
And I mean, for me in previous years, focusing on tournament fishing, I'd target 2 species. I'd target bass, I'd target pickerel, depending on what kind of event I was fishing. That was it. Last year I caught, I think it was 15 or 16 different species. So the whole idea of trying something local, and I did it all right here in our own backyard.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and just there's so many species. I mean, way more obviously in New Brunswick, but there's a lot of species in Nova Scotia too, and that a lot of people don't target. I mean, growing up for me, it was always trout and Cape Breton, and that was all I fished. I had very limited gear, like Mike said, pretty much the same boat. And then you come to the mainland, you're like, oh wow, there's these things called chain pickerel here, and I had known what bass were from going to Ontario, and then you're like, oh geez, there's yellow perch here too, and then what are these shad things? And then now I got striped bass. So like now my big thing is like I'm torn. Like, I'm thinking like, okay, I got Sunday to fish. Like, what do I do? Like do I go trout fishing? Like, do I go striped bass? I got one day to do it. Like what am I going to do? There's just so many opportunities. So I think that would be a message for me.
And absolutely zero bad choices.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
On that note, gentlemen, Mike, I can't thank you enough to be in there on the opening day of fishing season. The first episode in this 7-episode series. I'm sorry to tell you, I don't know if you heard me at the opening when I was teasing it a little bit. You're not going to be the most famous guest we have on over the next 7 weeks.
That's quite all right. You know what? In my business as a politician, the more celebrity, the more heat, the more celebrity you get, the more heat that comes with it. So I'm all right. I'm glad to get somebody that ranks a little higher than me.
You don't mind being a little bit on the low profile thing?
I'm just a dude that wants to get enough stuff done so that when I'm done this, I can go have a lot of fun and make up for the years that I was busy wearing the suit. That's all.
Fair enough, my friend. I want to thank you again for being with us. Mike Holland, New Brunswick's Minister of Natural Resources. Keep up your good work. We're excited to continue this series of shows in conjunction with the Maritime Boating and Outdoor Digital Marketplace. Our friends over at Master Promotions putting that on in replacement with the New Brunswick Sportsman's Show, the Fly Fishing Forum, and all the other regional trade shows that combine the outdoor community. So we're more than happy to be a part of that. Great people, and helping spread your message and helping us get out there so people can see it. So like I said earlier, next week we have a top secret guest that we can't even tell you about. We might let it slip the day of, but next Thursday, 8:00, right back here at Fish East Live, we're going to have somebody on that you're not going to want to miss. Mike, thanks again for joining us. We'll be in touch because we got to hit the banks of the river again this spring.
Yeah, for sure, Matt. And we got to have a time, get up here, and we'll go for a run too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll bring my list.
You might want to make sure it's a long weekend because, 1 or 2 days just isn't going to be enough.
Hey, listen, if this bubble opens up for the first few weekends after that, forget it. I got an appointment in North Wallace. Love you guys, but I got priorities.
When the bubbles opens up.
You got her.
Thanks again, my friend. We'll talk to you soon. Mike Holland, New Brunswick Minister of Natural Resources. Thanks for joining us, Matt. We're going to wrap up tonight's show. It's always great to talk to Mike and to have him kicking off this series, like I said, in conjunction with the Maritime Boating and Outdoor Digital Marketplace. Just a nice way to kind of kick off the open water season here in New Brunswick. And hopefully we had a few folks in Nova Scotia checking it out. And, maybe when that bubble opens up, we'll have a chance to do a little traveling both ways and get some New Brunswickers down to Nova Scotia and, get some Nova Scotians up here and just get on the water together and have some fun.
Yes. Yep. No, I think I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. So Matt, as fun as this always is, we do have to call it to an end. So thank you again. I know this was very New Brunswick centric, so you just kind of sat back and enjoyed the ride tonight. But trust me, we're going to make you work for it here over the next 6 weeks after tonight.
I'm ready. I'm always ready.
Sounds good, my friend. Thanks for joining us again. And for those of you at home, thanks for joining us. I'm sorry if we didn't get to all the questions, but I do know Mike goes back when he does these live streams and reviews the questions. And if it's something he can give you an answer to, I'm sure he'll reach out to you. Sometimes he'll reply directly to your comments. So thank you all for joining us. Don't forget the Maritime Boating and Outdoor Digital Marketplace. Search them up on the internet. Just Google Maritime Boating and Outdoor Digital Marketplace. They have a website there with a number of different vendors and exhibitors, I guess you would call them. It's an online trade show, so we couldn't get to go to Moncton or Halifax or different places in person this year. So hit them up online and check out the Fish East link on there and the many other great exhibitors. And we will see you here again in 1 week's time for our top secret guest that you don't want to miss. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, fish on and fish east.